There is a clip of Casey Neistat that has been burned into my brain. It is entitled, "This Guy is Relentless." I really like Casey Neistat. I really like Casey. I don't know him. I've enjoyed his videos. He seems like a nice enough guy. So when I saw this, it shook me to my core.
My intern or my assistant's job every year around Christmas time when I'd ship all my friends and loved one a new pen.
New pen, sure.
Those lanyards. And the most important part about those lanyards is that the ends be burned. Otherwise, they'll fray.
Okay, sure.
This individual, one year I was at some friend's house and they're like, "I still have your pen." And it was frayed. And I was fucking devastated. I felt like such a fucking charlatan in that moment. I fired the employee immediately.
Did you?
He fired the employee immediately. I ended up going to the podcast that this clip was from, watching this section through, like, to get the context. And it doesn't really add any context. If anything, it makes it worse.
Fired the employee immediately.
Did you?
Well, there's no way that happens on accident.
Uh-huh.
That means I thought I can get away with this because no one's double checking my work. Lesson learned, Rich.
Hence this maniacal attention to detail.
The way he so casually says that he fired this person immediately because they didn't tie the string around the pen, the most important part, mind you. And the way his friend who does the podcast like laughs is kind of like, "Ho ho ho, you know how Casey is." Oh, Casey, he's crazy. Casey's crazy. He's insane. You know how Casey is. In the full podcast, another thing he adds is that it had to be on purpose, right?
Well, there's no way that happens on accident.
It had to be on purpose. What? What are you talking about? Okay, so let's lay this out a little bit. We're going to think about this for a second. So your assistant, you instruct them to send a pen to all of your loved ones with 4 colors on it. 4, count them, 4 colors. And I imagine they probably need to pack it up, maybe put a card in there too. Later, he finds out they forgot to melt the string. So his thought is that had to be on purpose. I don't want to do any armchair psychology because I am very underqualified. I'm still working on my PhD for that. It would probably be fair to say that the string on a pen is a pretty small detail. In fact, I would go as far as to say that the string on the pen is not the most important part of the pen. I think the pen is the most important part. You're using it for writing. It's not like a necklace. Am I off base here? Do you understand why this bothers me? So I'm the assistant, you know, I just did an 8-figure knot, whatever that is, and I'm melting the ends of the string. I forget one of them. It's probably polypropylene. Those fumes can't be good to inhale. Am I gonna get like workers' comp when I have cancer 50 years from now? A big part of me feels like it's not appropriate to watch this podcast and go away from it being like, oh, this random unnamed employee got fired because they forgot to melt the knot on a piece of string of a pen. And like Casey is actively holding resentment against them like years later. I think it's unreasonable to go away from this podcast with that conclusion. But on the other hand, what other conclusion am I supposed to make? He says it with a straight face. As if a normal person's response wouldn't be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just because a detail is like a subtle one doesn't mean it's not important. And I get that like as a creator, when you make something, you really want to make it right. An example of this that I've thought about a lot actually. When I was a youngster, I had an iPod. When I moved the iPod, the reflection on the little metallic volume knob moved. It like shifted as if it was real metal. And I remember being so taken by that, right? Because that is an incredibly minor detail. It's a detail so minor that even implemented perfectly, basically no one is going to notice. So to go through the effort of like, you know, using the gyroscope sensors and stuff, I really liked that. And I kind of took inspiration from that. But there's a big difference between a creative pursuit you're doing yourself and like micromanaging your employees. From Casey's perspective, right? I'm Casey. We give him the benefit of the doubt with this. You know, this intern is a horrible intern or assistant or whatever. They don't get the coffee orders right. They don't order the right pressed juice. They're mean. They kick people on the street. They're not a good person, okay? When Casey saw that his friend's string was frayed. It was like the apple that landed on Einstein's forehead. It woke him up and said, this person is purposely taking shortcuts because they think they can get away with it, and I will not stand for that. If that was the case, don't you think that when you would explain this story, his words were, I fired them immediately. Wouldn't you say, like, oh, it wasn't just that, they also forgot to order new Juicero packets.
This is my friend's startup, and it's my favorite thing ever.
The thing that I think freaks me out so much is the fact that he says it as if it's an accolade.
Lesson learned, Rich.
And another thing is like a personal assistant, that's not an accountant, Like, you're probably friends or friendly with them at least. You probably have them managing things in your personal life. If my boyfriend ever comes home with a frayed piece of string, Jack, what the So this is a separate thought. I think what I'm about to describe is more akin to like Kim Kardashian than Casey Neistat. Casey Neistat being, a wealthy person, but Kim Kardashian being a billionaire. The difference in their net worth being about $1 billion. So they're not even comparable as far as I'm concerned. But I often wonder what problems the people in the upper echelons of society have. Because you reach a point where you basically have infinite money. Practically, money is no object. There are people who have more money than you, and there's like a balance in your bank account. But there's nothing normal you can spend that money on. There's only so much food you can eat. There's only so much clothes you can wear. Sure, there's people with more money than you, but in a practical sense, if you wanted to spend all of your money, it would be really difficult. So you buy a house larger than anyone could use, and you buy a car that goes much faster than you'll ever drive. Hiring somebody to spend all of their time doing things for you or like managing your life is a inconsequential expense. I feel like that has to affect how you view other people. If you spend more money in a year than most people will ever earn in their entire life, how does that affect the way you look at the people around you? How do you value them as people? So how this ties in is that I think social media to a certain extent has a similar thing. You have a number associated with you, 100,000, 1 million, 10 million. That messes with you. It messes with your head, and I think it probably can change the way you value other people. I don't think that's like necessarily true for everything, but I just like thinking about it, there has to be a thing inside you that says like, I'm better than you because I have XYZ. All of this really prompts a very difficult moral and ethical question, which is, obviously, how good is this pen? It must be really good, right? He really likes this thing. I saw this interview where he's talking about things he's obsessed with, and these pens are one of those things. He says in it, they're made in France like Chanel bags. That's so funny. That's like Kellogg's cereal is made in Michigan, like where those Ford cars are made. It must be a pretty good cereal. I really like you, Casey, if you're watching, which I know you're not, but if you are, don't take it personally. They are in fact made in France. That is true, and it's pretty cool that something is mass-produced in a country that presumably has like good labor laws and stuff. I was pretty excited to get this, I'll be honest. It was like a couple dollars for 3 of these. Part of adulthood is starting to become interested in really innocuous, mundane things. I swear, as soon as I turned 20, it was just like, I need to buy a screwdriver. It's a pen. It can draw in 4 colors, and it seems to work fine. I think my main thought is that it's pretty plasticky. There's this like little clippy thing here. It really like hurts. It like cuts into my hand. It hurts to write with, so you have to hold it in a certain position. And when you do that and you want to switch colors, it makes it kind of difficult. And the color switching things too, they hurt my soft skin. On the top, a little loop. In the comments on the original YouTube short I watched, the common consensus was, geez, what a jerk. But also, imagine being close friends with this, I don't know, like celebrity, right? and you get a pen. Well, I think it's the thought that counts. The thought counts kind of loses some value when you have an employee do it. I mean, it is cool. Like, it has 4 colors. It was made in France. But so was Marine Le Pen. It's not the highest bar. What am I going to do about this? What are we going to do? Nothing. Because I don't feel like I have enough context to make a judgment. I don't know how much hustle grind set content you have to consume to be like a normal person and watch that and be like, oh, my boss is going to fire me over a small detail that I forgot about. Great. I don't know. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, please subscribe.